I don't know what it is, but something about being a cowboy in Destiny while taking on aliens just feels oh so right. Today, guys, we're going to be reviewing the scout rifle that's dropping from the new dungeon this season called the Long Arm. Now, being one of the new text Mechanica weapons, it comes, of course, with the origin trait text balance stock. For damaging targets while firing from the hip, increases that handling and reload speed and movement speed while aiming down sights, essentially just allowing the weapon to feel a lot more fluid. We actually just reviewed the sidearm as well, but with the sidearm, we were normally aiming down sights in just about every single engagement, but considering this is the Long Arm, and it's obvious that the gun design here is very similar to that of DMT, we wanted to try Hipfire. The weapon shoots from the hip, but is it as good as Dead Man's Tell? And by the way, DMT just got a buff this season. We will be re-reviewing that one. Now, this actually takes us to a couple roles that we tried, and we're gonna get to my role as well. First up, I wanted to try this one right here, which had Hipfire, as well as opening shot. Now, this combination was interesting to me because when we stack on the accuracy that opening shot grants, which is like huge bonuses to our range and accuracy with the accuracies that you get from Hipfire, and if we happen to stack on a freehand grip mod, which also increases our accuracy while firing from the hip, is Long Arm essentially a pseudo Dead Man's Tell? Can it achieve that level of accuracy, at least from the hip? No. Guys, I tried. I mean, we really tried to make this work. The reality is, even though this weapon has the Text Mechanica origin trait on it, which is a really cool trait, and I do like it, Dead Man's Tell is a better Text Mechanica weapon. But I would argue and say Long Arm is a better scout rifle. So once you've actually established in your mind that, okay, this is a scout rifle, we need to treat it as such, crazy trait combinations like the one you see here with the hip fire and the freehand grip and all the hip firing that I try to do with it, you step away from that and you start treating this like it should be treated as, which is a scout rifle. And by the way, it is a phenomenal scout rifle. Now, knowing the time to kill department, this might not seem that impressive. It actually sits, or at least this archetype sits, at a 1 second TTK value. This actually matches our 180s. The difference here being for 120s is their overall forgiveness. And on top of that, 120s just got a buff. His body shot damage is now hitting 54 damage per body, and his crit shot damage is slightly lower. It was 81, now it's 80. Regardless though, what it's able to achieve is 1 crit, 2 body on Guardians, about 3 resilience or less. Now I know a lot of people are normally rocking higher resilience than this, so for the most part, you will be sitting at 2 crits, 1 body. But this is not hard to do with the scout rifle, guys. It snacks. Again, when utilizing it as a scout rifle. You start shooting this thing from the hip, you will be very disappointed. Trust me. I've been very disappointed. I'm like, man, why aren't you landing your shots? But what we forget is that Dead Man's Tell was the same exact way. What made DMT so good was its exotic catalyst. That is what actually amplified that hipfire accuracy. This actually brought us to the next role we tried out, guys. Considering we were leaning into this weapon being more of a scout rifle, this one came with rapid hit and opening shot. Now, rapid hit is obviously a great option for a multitude of reasons. The increase in reload speed, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, this isn't like a normal scout rifle where you literally load the entire magazine. No, it's just like Dead Man's Tell. So you're literally loading 2 rounds at a time. And this can take a while and be somewhat infuriating. So having something actually boosts that reload speed is really nice. Rapid hit supplies that. Also, the stability bump that rapid hit gives is really, really good. It really keeps that reticle on point with every precision hit you land. And it's something that's very noticeable when chaining kills. Because once you actually get past 2 stacks of stability or around 2 stacks of stability, that's whenever the weapon really starts to level out. We're talking 2 stability at the first stack, 12 at 2 stacks, 14 at 3, 18 at 4, and maxed out at 25 at 5. Now, when we look at the random rolls here for the scout rifle, everything here really points to rapid hit being the best choice. I know we also have under pressure, but what under pressure requires is you to prime the weapon down. Some people will take the time to do that. And believe me, guys, under pressure is a fantastic perk for that accuracy and like a default, what is it, almost 30 stability that you get on the bottom half of that magazine. But at the same time, are you going to take the time to prime the gun every single gunfight? Well, actually, the roll that I got has under pressure and opening shot together, and that's exactly what I do every single gunfight. I was priming this weapon down. Now, with my particular roll, it only kicked it up to 15 rounds at most with tactical mag, which still means that I have to sit at 7 rounds or less with the benefits that under pressure grants. And again, understand under pressure grants the stability and accuracy as the magazine gets lower. So similar like high impact reserves, the benefits is a linear progression the further you get into the magazine, approaching that final shot. But if there is any weapon in Destiny that can easily take advantage of under pressure, it's this Text Mechanica scout rifle right here, guys. And that's simply because every time you reload, you're only reloading 2 rounds of the magazine. So technically, yes, you do have to prime the weapon down on the initial gunfight, but then after that, all you have to do is just reload 2 or 3 times and you're right back to where you started. Now, I do want to mention that there are ways to take advantage of this even more. If I was to throw in things like backup mag, this easily like gives me with tactical mag around 18 rounds in my mag, which means I get 9 whole shots taking advantage of under pressure. And if I was to have things like a pendant mag or even extended mag, which no one's really jumping up saying, yo, extended mag is meta. But keep in mind, extended mag does give you plus 10 airborne effectiveness. All I'm saying is there are ways in which you can boost that magazine perk, and this of course allows you to take advantage of under pressure even longer. And I noticed a huge difference, especially getting really deep into that mag. Those last 4 shots really just are so sticky, like stupid sticky. Enough so that, yeah, in 1v1 scenarios, if I want to make sure I win those 1v1s, 100% I would chew this down to the bottom half of the magazine to take advantage of that accuracy and stability bumps. This is a very underrated trait, and on a weapon like this scout rifle, it really is easy to take advantage of it here, guys. So again, the toss up here on its random rolls in that first column is between rapid hit and under pressure. But for that final column, was opening shot really the way to go? This actually led us to our final roll to test. Very similar to our other roll. This one came with rapid hit as well as explosive payload. It also came with arrowhead break, which maxed out our recoil direction at 100, as well as a big bump there in our handling. And I gotta say, guys, I did enjoy arrowhead break, but more so than that, explosive payload felt so good on the scout rifle. Again, these are projectiles that create an area of effect detonation on impact, something that I said a long time ago. We used to actually review 120s, and I talked about time payload, explosive payload, how it almost felt like they had opening shot built in. Just something about it. That detonation damage always seems to find its target. Now I know the damage is split here. You have actual impact damage and of course detonation damage, but it's still doing the same damage, guys. The main thing about explosive payload, number 1, it does a phenomenal job flinching your opponents. And number 2, it has some weird accuracy, tying it close, maybe not as good, but close to what opening shot provides. Just my experience, guys. I'm just saying payload perks are fantastic perks, and a lot of people just don't realize how much this trait actually improves your weapon's consistency. We get hung up on the fact that it flinches the piss out of our enemies, which is nice, but again, it's its ability to snag shots that's so impressive, and this is something intrinsic to all of our payload perks. So personally, guys, after playing with all these different roles, including my own, I actually have 2 different roles I want you to consider for PvP. Arrowhead break, a magazine boosting perk, preferably appended mag or extended mag, under pressure, and explosive payload. Now there's one other trait that we did not play with on this scout rifle, and I cannot seem to find anybody with high impact reserves, but if you happen to be priming the weapon down and proccing under pressure, guys, high impact reserves all day long. I just talked about a second ago how you're in a situation where 1 crit 2 body will get you to kill, but only on guardians 3 resilience or less. This is where high impact reserves comes in. It's only a 3 to 6% increase there in damage, and again, that damage amplifying the deeper you get into the magazine. But even from like a conservative approach, and you just took the 3% buff, the 3% buff for your crit and your body shots will still grant you 193 damage, which means guardians 6 resilience or less will die for you in 1 crit and 2 body, and most guardians sit around that resilience level. It's that level of forgiveness that I really want you to consider on this scout rifle. And again, if you happen to be getting high impact reserves, don't chunk the roll, man. If it's paired with under pressure, it is a nasty combination. Outside of that, if you don't want to prime the weapon down, by all means, guys, rapid hit, explosive payload, that was still doing a phenomenal job for me. But if there is any weapon type that will take advantage of perks like under pressure and high impact reserves, it's this scout rifle right here. And guys, as soon as I get this roll, we will be playing with it. Now for PvE players, I was actually interested in seeing how the scout rifle performed. Now I know you're going to kind of be waiting on that reload time, right? But the reload speed is not that bad, especially if you have things like rapid hit. But I also want to see like what the difference is in terms of damage. So like from a 180 to a 150, and then from a 150 to a 120. So from a 180 to a 150, this is actually about a 15.6% increase in damage. And then from a 150 to a 120, this is roughly a 13.9% increase in damage. So it's still an increase and about in line with what we've seen from a 180 to a 150. Now granted, it's still doing less damage than that of Dead Man's Tale. DMT actually starts off at 6,341 and ramps up to 7,372. And of course, it has its own built-in exotic perk. Exotics do more damage though. Bungie gave that flat buff a long time ago. But there is a perk present on Longarm that you may want to really consider, and that's redirection. Originally just a trait present on the Deepstone Crypt weapons, it is also present on the Longarm. This actually buffs our damage with every single stack. And by the way, redirection just got a buff with update 6.3.0. It actually builds stacks against minor enemies and consumes them on anything else. Personally, I have not actually used it with redirection yet, but the damage actually amps up to like 100% at 5 stacks and beyond. And you can have up to 20 stacks with redirection. So you can definitely use it inside of PvE, guys. As far as the perk to actually pair it with, I think Subsistence would probably be pretty good if you're looking to get those multi-kills. Rapid Hit is also a really good one if you're burning into the same boss. Hipfire Grip, though, for PvE, again, man, I just don't think the weapon is that consistent. I don't think it's worth shooting from the hip. It's not like the damage is being increased here. So for my PvE players, Subsistence, Redirection, I think that trait combination should treat you well. So guys, that is our review there for the Longarm. Really cool scout rifle. I think it has fantastic target acquisition. And even though DMT is personally one of my favorite weapons weapons ever. And by the way, I know it is doing a lot better in the sandbox. I actually think Long Arm is a better scout rifle than Dead Man's Tell. And Dead Man's Tell, thematically, is a better Tex Mechanica weapon. Either way it goes, guys, Long Arm is definitely worth the grind. And just like the new Tex Mechanica sidearm, both of these are phenomenal weapons. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.